This is the front desk.
Good morning and welcome to episode 53 of the Crackin' Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Whiteman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you guys doing today?
Good, Lance. How you doing?
Good, Lance. Bud.
That's good to hear. So today we are joined by Dr. Larry Bell. Dr. Bell leads both the Back to Function and Bell chiropractic teams. He is considered one of Canada's foremost sports chiropractors and has worked with athletes across a wide range of sports disciplines at over 50 international events, including 6 Olympic Games and 18 World Championships and the Commonwealth Games. How you doing, Dr. Bell?
Well, thank you.
Hey, Dr. Bell. Good to have you on. I got to ask you probably one of the first and foremost questions that has nothing to do with how great and how great your history in chiropractic is with sports and everything. But what is it like in Canada? Not the current events that are going on. I'm talking about as chiropractors in Canada. We get an earful full of stuff now, but I'm down here in South Florida. But what's it like to be a chiropractor in Canada?
Well, actually, compared to when I started 100 years ago, or 43, I thought things would change quickly, and it's changing now. I see a lot of transition between where we aspired to be and where we are, as far as recognition from the medical community and from the sports community as well. We've had a great history, starting with, if I go back to 96 to the Atlanta Games, Donovan Bailey said, I'm bringing my chiropractor. He's coming in the front door. He's not coming in as a trainer. He's coming in as the medical. And of course, from there, he won the gold medal, set a world record. The relay team got a gold medal and set a record. And so chiropractic was pretty well embedded in sports from that time forward, just because of that one circumstance.
Isn't it usually like that? I've always
Absolutely.
I've always shared with a lot of our younger colleagues that it's we could be we could drive this healthcare lifestyle of chiropractic just so much, but it's usually the superstar athletes that have a great experience that they are the ones that demand chiropractic to be present and sometimes choose us over the other allied healthcare professionals. But that's
absolutely
often
we bypass that bias.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
It's the athletes that want us.
Yeah.
It's not. We didn't come to open arms with the medical profession. We came open arms to the athletes and their coaches. And I did work specifically with sprint function athletes. So the coaches would have their stopwatch, and it would be, 15-2, 15-1, 15-2, 15-3 as they're going through their training. And I had so many athletes come back with their coaches, and when they came back with their coaches, I would say to them, what's wrong? Did I make them run too fast? And they go, yeah. Like, he's a 15-2, 15-1, and now he's 14-9, 14-8, 15-0. What did you do? So, and of course, all these old coaches are old runners. So now you go back and show them on them where their issues are. A parallel is figure skating, taking a coach and looking at them biomechanically and then telling them which of their jumps were their strong jumps and which ones were their weak jumps. And right away, you've got their attention because that just fast forwards that whole training process.
Hey, Larry, I gotta ask a question because I first met you. God, I don't know if it was from the African Games in '91 or
No.
somewhere. Where you actually remember where we met?
Yeah, Montreal.
Oh,
I think
shit.
his brain is better than ours, Terry.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Shit, it was Montreal. Was that I guess was that before Africa?
That was 93.
Yeah,
That
I
was
think,
93.
yeah, but I thought we met in Africa in '91 at the World with Fix.
No, because I had to go to a track and field meet and you went riding camels instead.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Spencer,
Yes.
your friend here is a
Tell
great student. Geography was not his strong part. Okay?
Listen,
I'll tell you why I remember your buddy here. He came in and he's fairly new in practice and budget conscious. And he's coming to Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Oh God, you're gonna tell that story, aren't you?
For a Fix seminar. But he's late getting there.
Yeah.
But we know he's coming, and everyone's telling me about because they've all been to Africa with him and what a great guy is and all the rest. And later that morning, Terry comes in.
Yeah.
He got a flight to Quebec, which Montreal is Quebec, but Quebec City is a 4-hour bus ride from Montreal, Quebec. And so he loved the view. It's right along the St. Lawrence. You get to see all the different mountains and valleys and rivers.
Yeah.
He just wanted to see more of the country.
Thank you.
Thank you,
The fact that you remember that, God damn you.
Oh, I got way more I remembered. I just won't be telling.
Oh, shit. I remember telling at the time my secretary booked that. I go, I'm going to Montreal and just book me a flight. And here's the hotel and the whole thing. And so I fly in and she sends me to Quebec City. And so I land at this little airport. I'm like, wow, this is kind of a small airport for a big international convention. And so I get my luggage, I go to a taxi cab. I go, I'm supposed to go to this hotel. Well, they happen to have the same hotel chain in Quebec City that they did in Montreal. And so I go to this hotel and I check in and I'm looking around. There's no signs, there's no nothing. And I went, I'm supposed to be here for a convention. And she's like, oh, we don't have a convention here. And she goes, oh, you sure you're not supposed to be in Montreal? And I'm like, oh. And she looked it up. She goes, yeah, we have a hotel in Montreal and we have a convention there. I'm
big
like,
one. A big one there.
And I went, oh shit, I'm supposed to speak at like 10 in the morning. And she's like, well, there's a bus leaving at 6 in the morning that we might be able to get you there. And I'm running frantic to try. And I'm sweating. This is before cell phones. And I'm like trying to scramble. And yeah, I arrive, like 5 minutes late. I run in, I throw my bags on the floor, and I go right to the stage and I start speaking.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it was.
That's classic.
I don't think I've sweated that much. I'm trying to impress all these big name people, Dr. Bell, oh my God, Pearson, Press, they're all there. And I'm the new guy. Hey, but you know what? I made it. So I was resilient and I figured it out.
You figured it out. That's exactly it. In '89, we're going to Lagos, Nigeria, and Al Miller.
I remember all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Al Miller.
Al Miller went a day early. And so as I'm packing up, ready to go to get on, and it's actually to Port Harcourt in southern Nigeria. And Al phones me up, I'm like 5 minutes from getting in my car. And after that, of course, there's just no connection. I'm going to the airport, I'm flying out
Right.
100 years ago. So he phones and says, there's no event here in Port Harcourt. I said, well, there's got to be. We've got all the information. Well, he says, well, I'm in Port Harcourt and there is no. So he flew all the way to Port Harcourt and then finally found out that a week before that they had changed and they decided to put it at the National Stadium in Lagos. So he had flown into Lagos, went down to Port Harcourt, but it took him most of a day to find out that there wasn't an event there and where the event was, because nobody knew, right? Well, I don't know. So we've all had some of these stories.
Oh yeah, I think that's what molds us to who we are today. The only difference is you remember them. I can't remember what happened last week.
And worse than that, I can't even rag on Terry, because not only can I not remember anything, I am even worse geographically. Thank God for GPS. I'd be lost everywhere I go.
We're just north of New York. That's all you have to know.
So I gotta ask you this. Since '93, actually before that, I heard about your name. You're one of the and I'm gonna pump you up a little bit. You're one of the best known sports chiropractors, I think, in the world.
I'm the oldest.
I was in Rome 2 years ago, and I was talking to the Canadian chiropractor that was with the Taekwondo team. They all thought you were God, and when they found out that you and I were friends, that it actually helped. It helped our relationship a little bit because he was a kind of a newer guy, and when he found out we were friends, it was like instant acceptance, whatever you want to call it. And so my question is, there's a lot of chiropractors out there. You're still obviously so passionate 40 something years later. Can you share to our audience what your journeys look like from when you started and how you've gotten to where you are? I think it's fantastic.
Well, it comes down, Terry, to when opportunity knocks, you have to be ready to go through the door. You have to be prepared because the door doesn't open all the time. Sometimes it slams shut too. So when it opens, you got to be able to get through the door and walk the walk, talk the talk, right? That's basically what it is. And back in my day, there was nobody doing it. Right? Right. There were 6 of us. There's 6 chiropractors at the Olympics. Holy shit. I mean, just so many people wanting our services and only a few of us there. And we were capable. Everyone that was there was capable because we were passionate about what we did. We had done our work. We knew our stuff. We weren't, it cost us money to get there. It's not like today where people's ways get paid. I was in the game for 10 years probably before I started to get paid for what I did. I just went because I knew that the profession needed us to get there and do what we did to expand our territory and our exposure. The David Pearsons, the Noel Pattersons, the Tom Hydes, the Brian Nook. We didn't go there for anything more than to expand our exposure and to bring our profession to the light that it should be in. And I'll tell you the person who told me that. Who's Mr. Motion Palpation?
No, is it Faye? No, who motion
Yeah.
captation? It's Faye,
Faye?
right? Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
He came into a room when I was in fourth year. He's 86 or 87 now. He still publishes. He still teaches. He's, I believe he's in with Stecco. He's learning new stuff all the time.
That's so awesome.
But he came into our fourth year class and said, "You are the chosen profession."
Mm.
Back then?
Wow.
Wow. That's
Back
cool.
then, that's in 1979.
Yeah.
And he said, "You will make a difference when you're out there."
Nice.
And he was supposed to be there for an hour on a Friday afternoon, and realized that that's also the TGIF time in our school. So the beer started flowing and the music started playing about 3 o'clock. He was still there at 6 o'clock, and so
God.
was the entire class.
Jeez, that's
He was supposed to be there for an hour. So,
Wow.
and I never got to meet him. It's one of these things like running into you. We're always 6 degrees apart.
Right.
Courtney Brown runs into you. By the way, did you know that she's with Brooklyn Nets right now?
No, I didn't. Wow.
She was finished with Alpine,
Right.
or going to be finishing, and I thought she was coming back here to work with us. And then she got headhunted by the Brooklyn Nets, and she's in Brooklyn now.
Wow. Wow.
Outstanding.
That's
right place, right time,
totally.
and had the right understanding, eh?
Yeah.
Dr. Bell, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Being that you've been in the profession for 100 years, not that quote unquote, right?
Yeah. BJ and I were brothers.
That's like Terry and I are sisters.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
All right,
You're the
so-
older sister.
The evil twin. Okay.
Yeah.
But most importantly, what drives you to do so much and to continue? There's got to be some jazz in it. What makes you? What drives you?
Yeah.
Well, right. So if we go back, 1993, I spent 56 days out of the office at track meets in Europe and United States, Canada. And I traveled right through, and I said to my last two athletes that I would see them through their last Olympics. And that last Olympics, the two athletes were Letitia Vriest from Suriname. She's a 5-time Olympian in the 800. And Francis Obikwelu, who was silver medalist in Athens and European Athlete of the Year in 2006. 100-meter sprinter. So I saw them both through to the end of their careers. And then I shut it down. I was a wanderlust, right? I love to travel. I love to help out. So it's just busman holidays to start with. But then there's a connection. You won't find two more outstanding human beings than those two. And so I wanted to see them through. And now it's all living vicariously through people like Courtney is with the Brooklyn Nets. I was able to give her some insight that she was able to stick handle through the maze. And she, a lot of it, it's amazing how history repeats itself, how the people that want to get close, a lot of them just want to get closer so they can make sure they stick that knife in your back in the right position, right?
Yeah.
And true to, the first person that befriended her was someone that wanted to stick the knife in her back. But she was wary, and she got out on the positive side of that by challenging the person and her immediate boss and having a meeting and doing it in the proper way. One of our associates here looks after the Canadian fencing team. So I've been able to help him organize his position with the federation. So that's how I feel my job is now. I get all the sports residents come to my office once a week for 10 weeks, pre-COVID. So all the sports, all the fellows in the sports program have been in my office for 10 weeks. And I want to teach them what normal is. Because it's really hard to know what normal is. But if you know what normal is, everything else isn't. You may not know what it is, but you know that it's not normal function, or it's a diversion of normal. And so I think that's what my job is now, is to help other people get there faster. I don't want them to fumble through 40 years to get to this point. I want them to have the information now so that in 40 years, you see where our profession is.
That's awesome.
So let me
So
ask
that's
you,
sort of
Dr.
where I
Bell.
feel.
Our listening audience is composed of regular, non-professional, as well as professional or chiropractors and what have you. But for those that are the lay people, explain how pain management is not always our mainstay in chiropractic, especially in the sports world. It's more so
And
performance,
not in my office.
right? So explain how that
Yeah.
works for you and your athletes.
Okay. Well, if you go where the pain is, you're missing the problem 90% of the time. That's how I explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's why you need to know what normal is. And it starts with the foot and it works its way up. And you start looking at myofascial chains. You look at sedentary. My big thing in my office is sedentary posture. We have predictable issues. We're going to have C4 to C7 degeneration. We're going to have L4 to S1 degeneration. Those are not the problem areas. Those are the result of the problem areas. The problem is hip function. If you don't have hip mobility, it downloads to the low back. It also downloads to the knee. Mm-hmm. If you don't have foot function, it downloads to the knee. The knee does what the ankle tells it to do and what the hip allows it to do. Mm-hmm. So when people come in with knee pain, I never look at the knee. I'm always looking at what's creating the overload. And the same thing with the low backs and stenosis, for instance. I'm always looking at what is the main bottom line issue that we need to address. In the upper area, it's T1 to 4. It's the imbalance, the head anteriority that we see that overloads the C-spine. But it really starts with T1 to 4 and getting the shoulders back where they should be, get the head on top of the shoulders where it should be. And then once you've got that, and the same, for instance, in a shoulder. The shoulder is I've got a very good patient right now that I've worked for 6 months on. She has 4 complete rotator cuff tears. She has a labral tear. She has arthritis of the joint. She has the bicep out of the groove. And she's fine. She can take the milk out of the fridge. She can sleep without pain. She can golf. She's 76 years old. They wanted to do a total shoulder on her. And I go, why? That's a minimum 2-year resolve. And by then you're 78. Why don't we try 6 months of rehab and see what we can do? And it comes down to the same thing, unwinding that upper cross issue and getting that scapular movement. And she's fine. She's never going to be a drywaller. She's never going to be able to put but all she wants to do is take the milk out of the refrigerator and golf.
Like, wow.
So you're not just a backcracker like some of the folks, especially in Canada.
I started out at Parker Boy.
Hey, what have you in your experience in your travels, what have you noticed that is the same when you first started, and what changes have you seen now?
Changes then and now, eh?
So what have you seen that still resonates, that's the same, but what advances have you seen? I know that's a broad
Well, I'll tell
question,
you.
but
I think that we come out of school feeling. I don't think that we are shown enough in school to know our true abilities. I think we come out as underachievers. And I think that resonates still to this day. I think that, we get into different programs or techniques that we hide behind, and that gives us our 80-10-10. But what I'm seeing now is that, and I'm sort of somewhat funneled because a lot of what I see is sports. A lot of the chiropractors that I see are the people that have gone that extra step. I don't have to explain who Yanda is anymore to anyone. I don't have to explain who Boyle is. I don't have to explain myofascial chains or anatomy trains or ART. Everyone comes in with a certain amount of extra skills that we never had in our day. But the one thing that they don't come in with today is any idea of how the upper cervical functions and how to restore it. And that's the last part of the upper cross tissue. Right? As the head comes forward, the suboccipital extends, and we create those issues. And I don't know, we even have some of the technique people up here that caution their students not to adjust the cervical spine. And you go, wow, like that's what sets us apart.
yeah,
The big. Now here I'm going to go back to your question again. Intrinsic function. That's what we know as chiropractors. We also know the software. We know that there's a software component to it. So if all we're doing is working on the hardware, and we're missing part of our main differentiating factor of adjustment, what separates us from all the other professions? I mean, we have so many great attributes that we tend to want to discard, but that's just because the people who are teaching don't understand because they've never walked the walk. If we go back to those that can do, those that can't teach, right? Now, that's back in my day. But you see, at CMCC now, there's a lot of people that spent those 10 weeks with me. One of the people that a couple of the people that I had in the office as associates for a period of time, they're back teaching. So now some of this other stuff is creeping into the curriculum. And I also get preceptorships. I'll accept anyone who wants to come up here. And pre-COVID, we had people in the office virtually every week, either spending a day with us or coming up with a preceptorship. And so when one came up from Logan, I was so pleasantly surprised. I said, well, because Logan in my day was not the strongest school back in the day, like 100 years ago. But I said, so what do you know about ART? Well, we take spine in our course. Really? Well, what about anatomy trains? Oh, yeah, I got that one. Well, what about Boyle? Oh, yeah, we got that one. And I go, wow, you guys are way ahead of the game. You just have to now get some experience and know how to put all those tools like they're in your toolbox now. I don't have to put them in your toolbox. In my day, we only had one. We had adjusting, and if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So that's what we did. We adjusted our way out of Denver, and and that was it. But when I went to all these events, I got to have beers and talk with Jack Scott. Jack Scott and I go out for a beer every night.
Wow.
Inventor of microcurrent. Holy shit! You can't pay for education like that.
No.
Thomas was the physiotherapist for Czechoslovakia. So I got to adjust Selesny, their big javelin thrower, and he was doing things that I was really interested in. I had no clue what he was doing because we didn't speak. I couldn't speak Czech, he couldn't speak English, but we worked together and we looked at what he was doing. Well, I didn't know of the person named Yanda and Levitt and all the people. It wasn't until 92 that I met Vladimir Yanda for the first time. And I basically bowed.
Yeah.
I basically bowed because by now I've been seeing so many sprint function athletes that I'm trying to assemble all this new information that I've got that I thought was really, groundbreaking stuff. And then I went to a Yanda seminar and found out that I was in kindergarten and he was the professor.
Wow.
And so I virtually bowed to him and I said, "You can't believe how grateful I am to be at this seminar because you just saved me 20 years of floundering through." And of course, he had like 26 physios under his wing to do research for him. Like, and in Czechoslovakia, everyone's on the same level. You don't have the orthopedic surgeon, then the medical doctor, then the therapist. They're all on the same level. My son just did his DNS certification over there. The moving MRI is in the physiotherapy department because they use it the most. Holy shit.
For the listeners and viewers, what's DNF? And you might want to give a background on Yanda, one of the greatest biomechanics. Go ahead.
Dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. Okay. Yanda in my day was the guy that talked about sedentary posture and predictable patterns that you will see. You don't see the same patterns. If you go to a third world country that doesn't sit in chairs, they don't have low back degeneration because their hips are naturally mobile. We sit in chairs, we shorten our hip flexors, we get compensatory issues. And so that's why it's a waste of time for me to work on an L4 to S1 before I get hip mobility restored to then be able to help them on a long-term basis with their low back issues. Because it doesn't matter how strong you get it, as soon as you get to the end of the range of motion, something else is going to substitute. So it doesn't matter how your core is. If your hip doesn't work, you're going to download it to your back anyways because you have to. That's how you adapt to it. So that's how it was because of being around all these other people, and at nights I was the new meat, because there weren't many chiropractors. Everyone wanted to, they saw me treating all the people I treated, and they wanted to get some of that. I wanted to get some of what they had, and so there was no barriers. We just all, it was a free for all of information.
Dr. Bell, did you notice in your travels and treating athletes from other countries that when adjusting someone or doing the spinal or extremity manipulation, that there was a difference in how it was accepted in America versus other countries and the medical doctors or the allied healthcare? In fact, not just the medical doctors, but all other allied healthcare professionals, how they would react and respond to what you're doing?
Well, curiosity was one thing. right? So some of them will come up, and what are you doing? I said, well, why don't I show you? I don't like explaining things. All the seminars that we do are hands-on seminars. I don't want to sit up here and tell you what to do. I want to see how you're doing it and help you do it better. And the same thing there. I'd much rather take an orthopedic surgeon, and and of course you get the derogatory side as well, right? Oh yeah, I know about those neck manipulations and that. And I go, really? What do you know about it? Because that thing that happened 25 years ago or 30 years ago spawned a lot of great science. A lot of great research came out of that unfortunate incident, and you don't know anything about that. It's like you were branded a child molester, and no matter how innocent you were, to some people, you're still a child molester, right?
But how would you explain to any of our other allied healthcare professionals what does the adjustment do? What does that, or basically they would say, what does that cracking and popping do?
Well, that's where the intrinsic motion comes in. If you don't have movement, then the muscles can't act. So if we assess the movement and the quality of movement, and we're good at restoring that movement, then we can start to work on all the other things that have adapted to that fixation or restriction.
So you have been obviously extremely successful in the sports world, and success like that doesn't just come with marketing and public relations and social media, but it comes with results that you have shown without, you don't even have to say a word. But the beauty of working on athletes, especially speed athletes, is when all other variables are absent and the only difference was that you adjusted them and suddenly shaved off a millisecond or more, that's the results. What actually is it that you do when you see an athlete? Is it soft tissue? Is it manipulation? Is it anything in particular?
Well, it all depends on how many tools you have in your toolbox, right?
Right.
At the start, manipulation was a big part of what I did. As I moved forward and gained more understanding, then I used the manipulation less, used soft tissue, used motor control, and that's the difficulty, is that we only get polarized to manipulation, and now part of that area has been avoided or reduced, cervical area. So yeah, it's all of those things, Spencer. We've got to look at. I tend to do. I start from the foot and work up. That's a very misunderstood area. I'm not a total, but I'm an anti-orthotic guy. You realize that midfoot has to work. You have to get the subtalar eversion. If you check subtalar eversion on most people, they don't have any. It's hard to get that subtalar to neutral rather than into eversion. If that talar head does not inferomedially migrate down the calcaneus, you don't unlock the navicular. If you don't unlock the navicular, then the medial cuneiform and the first ray can't get to the ground. And so you tend to spend most of your time pushing off on the outside of your foot. So that all I have to do with an athlete is see them run. As soon as I see them run down and come back, I can give them every injury they've had. I can tell them exactly where their dysfunction is, because your eyes are your strongest ally. Your hands second, your eyes. Once you see normal, then everything else is abnormal. You may not know what it is. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to ask because even my confusion was, and after what 37 years of practicing with athletes and understanding biomechanics, it's
You
always
just need to be in it
fascinated me.
more, Spencer. You just need
Yeah,
to be in it
right.
more.
A little bit more.
He needs to get out of South Florida a little bit
Yeah,
more.
that's the problem. I know.
Oh, here
It's a
we go.
whole world down
Meanwhile, we got all the Canadians coming down here, just so you know. We can tell the Canadians because they're very red on the beach. They love
Absolutely. What are you doing on the beach in 65-degree weather?
right.
Yeah,
They go in the water. It freaks me out. Like it's freezing over there.
I'm the same way. We drive to Malibu and we see people. It's cold out. They're all on the beach. We're like, up, terse.
Yeah. We don't say tourists. We go, oh, Canadians.
Yeah, I know you do.
Anyway, Dr. Bell, let me ask you because what was always fascinating to me is that, and I love running or jogging and being competitive in that arena, but I have seen the craziest biomechanics and people do really well and are pain free. Uh, and then, in fact, even Andy, do you know Andy Klein, Dr. Andy Klein out of what is it,
Yeah,
Minnesota, I believe?
yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows Andy because he's
No,
he's a
well,
hundred
I haven't seen him
a
in years,
hundred
but I
years in the
know.
profession.
Yeah.
All yeah, 100 years in the profession also. But Andy posted up so he was lecturing to us at the Professional Football Chiropractic Society, and he was really commenting on functional movement screening, that protocol that everybody's well, it was almost a fad. Then there was SFF,
MA.
SFM, MA or something like that. But he was sharing that yeah, you can get your biomechanics a certain way based on that testing, but he showed us a picture of an Olympic level athlete running, and it was a face on frozen. Yeah, I mean, just it was an image, it wasn't video. And the mechanics were so obscure and so, as we would think, dysfunctional.
Jim Furyk.
What do you say about that?
Well, Jim Furyk, in golf.
Yeah.
But here's what I have to say about it. I started out with twins from Nigeria, the Azinwa brothers. One was a 999 and one was a 1009, but they're identical twins. And I got the older brother down. Well, they're older by like a minute. I got Davidson down to 991 and Osmond down to 995. Like the thing is that gait is learned. You're not an animal that just 5 minutes after it's born gets up and starts running around. That's ingrained movement. We have to learn our movement. And if we learn it, we can change it. And no matter how bad it is, it can get better. And we can always get better at it with a bad golf swing. But are we really getting to our true potential? If you look at Salazar out in Portland, he's training his people to move. He's retraining his people to move so they can run faster and go with less injuries.
There you go. Yeah.
So I don't care what your number is. I actually like it. I like it when I see biomechanically disasters, right? Because I know I can make them run faster. And what's going to prove it is the stopwatch. That's the key to it. I picked an event that there is a feedback to what I'm doing that most other professions you can't do. You can't do that in soccer and hockey, football, but you can on the track.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I just dumb luck fell into it and then realized afterwards what a benefit it was. And that's what we do is we just slowly retrain those people to improve their outcome. Because it's inefficient, right? If the
Totally.
gait, if the foot is wrong, it's inefficient. And that's
Totally.
all you need to know. Like if you're pushing off on the outside of your foot, you're only using your bicep femoris as your main hamstring. You need to go to the medial side to bring in the medial hamstrings and the adductor magnus and short head of bicep as your fourth hamstring. So if you want to get stronger, use 4 of them. If you want to get faster, use 4 of them. Because if you only use one, you're going to use it, but sooner or later, something's got to give.
Yeah.
Very
Hey,
good.
as one of the last things before we let you go, you've been around the world several times, and so many LA professionals don't even get out of their town. They they get their degree, they find their picket fence and their office, and they settle in and they do their one seminar a year, and they never leave. And the only experience they get is from the people that walk through the door, where you went looking for them. What advice do you have there's probably the one advice you have for anybody that you've learned from the road life, or I like to call the trenches?
The trenches.
Dr. Bell, I hear the word trenches and pearls of wisdom.
Can you just elucidate on that just a bit, Terry?
Yeah.
Every podcast.
Spencer, could you elucidate on that?
So what have you learned from the road that most people don't realize? Because like I said, most people don't even leave their town. So what have you learned?
What I get asked the most is, how do I get to go to the Olympics?
Oh, yeah.
And I tell them, I said, you don't want to be at the Olympics. If you're asking me how to get to the Olympics, you don't want to be at the Olympics. You want to be with your local soccer team, football team, baseball team. And as those people get better and move up the ladder, they'll take you with them.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
And by the time they get to where they need to be, you'll be where you need to be to walk through the door.
That was fantastic.
That was totally fantastic.
That was I don't even want to say another word. Leave that in everybody's mind because it's so true. That was great.
I remember that one, Larry. That was. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna let you go back to your world on that one, because I got nothing better than that. And it's such an honor to call you not only a friend but a colleague for all these years.
Well, it's nice to reconnect. We've always been 6 degrees apart. You and I.
Yeah, we have.
You run across Courtney and Nader and all these people, and I go, oh, so what's he doing now? Because I never get to see you, and especially the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun to catch up, and I'm really sorry that your memory is so damn good, because I didn't need to be reminded of that fiasco in Montreal, but
Spencer.
But thanks for remembering, Larry. I love every minute of it.
I have some ammunition for you at some point. But it requires a few beer to get it across.
I'll buy you a case.
And my son will probably pitch in on that one.
Oh yeah.
I'm good. I don't need to know.
I'll just say one more thing. When we did our seminars with Fix, we always included an outing so that we could get together and become brothers. You and I are brothers. We've gone through the trenches in a different sense, probably, but we've done some things together, and we're all out helping each other, which is so uncommon to human nature, right?
Yeah.
So we tried to get people together and go out and have an outing. We went sailing. We went sea kayaking. Do you know what sea kayaking is?
No.
I didn't either. That's why I went sailing. But what it is, but what it is you drag this thing in the water, and it's got a big hole in it, and you sit in it with a paddle, and you sea kayak around the water.
You mean kayak?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, we had to translate it for the Miami boy.
Yeah. I've seen those things, but I've never heard it called that.
Right. And when we do our seminars, I always go out after the seminar and buy people a beer
I do too. Yeah.
because I want them to meet their brothers. I want them to know that it's an open book, that anytime that you want help, I'm more than happy to help you. You've got your brothers here that you should be leaning on and both learning together. I mean, that's what it's all about. We have so many enemies in the world. Why do we want more enemies in our own profession?
Yeah. True.
So we're kindred spirits.
Yes, we are. And we've had a lot of laughs in the day going around the world. We've had so much fun, and it's always fun when I run into a Canadian doc and they're like, because they said the same thing. You know, Dr. Bell? I go, not really, but I go, he is like my brother. And I go, we shared a lot of stories around this world together, so it's an honor to reconnect with you again, bud. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. And
Thank
nice
you.
meeting you, Spencer. It's been swell.
You too, buddy.
All right.
All right, man.
Very
Well,
good.
you, hey, on the last note, you go enjoy those horn honking truckers out there and have a good
They're all
time.
gone.
I knew that was
They're
coming.
all gone. They're all gone now.
Are they? Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I'll do a couple-
Trudeau froze all their bank accounts. That was the last thing I heard.
A lot of those were American, by the way.
Well, you know what? We're going to go honk our horns just for you today.
All right. Hey, get that flag out too, will you? That Confederate flag?
Yeah. On that note, we're out.
I'm going to end this before I go any further.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, brother. You
All
have
right.
a great day and have a fabulous time and keep on doing what you're doing. And thank you for the passion, man.
Hey, my pleasure. Bye.
All right.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Kraken Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at the Kraken Backs podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday and Thursday. See you next time.